So, two Bryan Singer films back to back. Why did I choose to do this? Well, it was simply a coincidence. Or was it? Hello everybody, I'm Bboy and I'm here to bring you yet another Bboy Reviews. So, last night in theaters I went and saw X-Men Apocalypse, and oh man. Here are my thoughts on it. So right from the start, you can already see that this film's taking a very different turn than Days of Future Past did, which I liked. Days of Future Past, it's no secret, it was a huge success. Everyone seemed to like it for the most part. So it left pretty big shoes to pass on to Apocalypse. And the only question is, did Apocalypse fill those shoes? Well, let's find out. So, the story follows the very first mutant who is worshipped like a god. Now, his name is Apocalypse. They never really say that in the film, I don't think, but he's Apocalypse. So, it cuts to ancient Egypt, and he is being constructed to gain more power, and he is buried in this tomb by some accident that I'm not going to spoil. So he's there for several thousands of years, obviously, several hundreds of years, and he is later awakened in the 1980s when it jumps forward. So Apocalypse has arisen, and the X-Men gotta stop him. So that is the main focus of this film, but there's actually a lot more to it. So I'm not gonna lie to you guys. When this movie first started up, I thought that the intro they established Apocalypse with was cool. Also, by the way, this movie, you know how the X-Men movies always have that kind of cool like tunnel opening, and then it like the X-Men doors close. It's like X-Men Apocalypse. You know, it says the title. This one could possibly have my favorite one that I've ever seen. It was pretty cool. So yeah, it had that going for it, but then it jumped to a different story, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. They're done here, so they gotta go here. Then it jumped to another story, then another story, then another story, and I was like, oh. So I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit scared about that. Granted, I did find all the stories interesting. However, I feared that this movie may have a problem of jumping around too much. However, I was proven wrong when all of these different stories come together and you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense why they did that. So they establish everything, they build it up from the ground up, and then stuff goes down. So I'm not going to go too in depth to it, but it's a cool movie. There's definitely a lot of great action sequences in here. There's a lot of memorable moments. There's actually some character depth that they added to characters such as Mystique, Magneto especially. Apocalypse even gets some sympathy. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of different emotions going through this movie, which I loved. That was something that the X-Men movies did a little bit, but this one certainly goes a bit more in depth with that, which I thought was really cool. Okay, so this is the big scene everyone wants to hear about. The Quicksilver scene. Did it top Days of Future Past scene? In my opinion, yeah. It was pretty funny. It was hilarious. It was much needed comic relief. It came at a kind of darker time in the movie. So when I saw it, I just was laughing in my seat. It was great. And speaking of Quicksilver, he's in this movie a lot more. So I went back on Days of Future Past and I was like, I really liked it, but man, I wish there was more Quicksilver. And the reason behind that is kind of shady, you know. The studio found out that Marvel was using Quicksilver, so like, oh, we're going to replace this, I think it was Mammoth, we're going to replace him with Quicksilver to get him in first. Which, yeah, that's kind of a sucky thing to do, but I think we can all agree that Avengers Quicksilver isn't as enjoyable as X-Men's Quicksilver. Just my opinion. So yes, there is a lot of great scenes in this movie. In many ways, I do think it did top Days of Future Past. However, Days of Future Past's high points were a bit higher than Apocalypse. However, this film is still very, very enjoyable. I'd highly recommend it to any X-Men or superhero fan alike. You're going to have a good time with this one. It was really cool. I had a great time. And be sure to stay for that after credits scene. Alright, well thanks for watching guys, and take care. See you next time.